Hi class. So we are back with video number 2. Again, our goal is to fill out this graphic organizer. Okay, you are going to pull text from the slave narrative and enter it here, and I'm going to help you with that. Okay, so here we go. We are going to talk about the slave narrative. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read it first. I'm going to read where down here, you're going to stop here where at stranger, and I'm going to read the whole thing, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you in the first paragraph where the narrative, examples of narrative, which is informing it, are, and examples of persuasive. And then you are going to look at the rest of it and pull information. Okay? I was born in Tuckahoe near Hillsborough and about 12 miles from Easton in Talbot County, Maryland. I have no accurate knowledge of my age, never having seen my authentic record containing it. By far the larger part of the slaves know as little of their ages as horses know of theirs, and it is the wish of most masters within my knowledge to keep their slaves thus ignorant, meaning keeping them ignorant, stupid. I do not remember to have ever met a slave who could tell of his birthday. They seldom come nearer to it than planting time, harvest time, cherry time, springtime, or fall time. A want of information concerning my own was a source of unhappiness to me even during childhood. That means he wanted information of his birth, and he didn't have it, and it caused him much unhappiness. The white children could tell their ages. I could not tell why I ought to be deprived of the same privilege. I was not allowed to make inquiries of my master concerning it. In other words, he wasn't allowed to question his master. The master deemed all such inquiries on the part of a slave improper and impertinent, and evidence of a restless spirit. The nearest estimate I can give makes me now between 27 and 28 years of age. I come to this from hearing my master say, sometime during 1835, I was about 17 years old. My mother was named Harriet Bailey. She was the daughter of Isaac and Betsy Bailey, both colored and quite dark. My mother was of a darker complexion than either my grandmother or grandfather. My father was a white man. He was admitted to be such. Sorry about this. He was admitted to be such by all I ever heard speak of my parentage. The opinion was also whispered that my master was my father, but of the correctness of this opinion I know nothing. In other words, he doesn't know if that's true or not. The means of knowing was withheld from me. My mother and I were separated when I was but an infant, before I knew her as my mother. It is a common custom in the part of Maryland from which I ran away to part children from their mothers at a very early age, frequently before the child had reached its 12th month. Its mother is taken from it and hired out on some farm a considerable distance off, and the child is placed under the care of an old woman, too old for field labor. For what this separation is done I do not know, unless it be to hinder the development of the child's affection towards its mother, and to blunt and destroy the natural affection of the mother for the child. This is the inevitable result. In other words, being kept away from his mother hindered his stunted his development of his affection towards his mother. He had little affection, if any, towards his mother, and the mother towards him. I never saw my mother to know her as such more than 4 or 5 times in my life, and each of these times was very short in duration, and at night. She was hired by a Mr. Stewart, who lived about 12 miles from my home. She made her journeys to see me in the night, traveling the whole distance on foot, after the performance of her day's work. She was a field hand, and a whipping is the penalty of not being in the field at sunrise, unless a slave has special permission from his or her master to the contrary. In other words, to the opposite, unless he or she has permission. A permission which they seldom get, and one that gives to him that gives it the proud name of being a kind master. I do not recollect of ever seeing my mother by the light of day. She was with me in the night, She would lie down with me and get me to sleep, but long before I waked, she was gone. Very little communication ever took place between us. Death soon ended what we could have while she lived, and with it her hardships and suffering. She died when I was about 7 years old on one of my master's farms near Lee's Mill. I was not allowed to be present during her illness, at her death, or burial. She was gone long before I knew anything about it. Never having enjoyed, to any considerable extent, her soothing presence, her tender and watchful care, I received the tidings of her death with much the same emotions I should have probably felt at the death of a stranger. So now we're going to go back, and I'm going to show you some examples of information and persuasion. You can take a break, stop the video and take a break, about 5 minutes or so if you want, but come right back to it. Okay. I was born in Tuckahoe, near Hillsborough, and about 12 miles from Easton in Talbot County, Maryland. Okay, this is just informative. This is an example of information. He's not trying to persuade you of anything. He's not trying to entertain you. It's strictly information. Think back to the LRC information. Open this hour to this hour, or these days to that day. Okay, that's all this is. He's just giving you information. Okay. By far, the larger part of the slaves know as little of their ages as horses know of theirs, and it is the wish of most masters within my knowledge to keep their slaves thus ignorant. Okay. This is a persuasive argument of how badly the slaves had it. He is equating them to horses. Okay, so in his writing, Frederick Douglass is saying that the slaves know as little of their ages as horses know of theirs. He is equaling them to horses, which is a beast. It's an animal. Okay? And the wish of most masters within my knowledge means, from what I understand, the majority of masters want it this way. They want to keep their slaves stupid. Okay? So this is persuasive. This is telling you how bad they had it. This is one sentence telling you how bad they have it. He's equating them with horses. They don't know their age, and the masters want to just keep it that way. Ignorant is a huge word. It's like really stupid. If you're ignorant, you're very unknowing. Okay? My mother was named Harriet Bailey. She was the daughter of Isaac and Betsy Bailey, both colored and quite dark. My mother was of a darker complexion than either my grandmother or grandfather. Okay? This is just information. That's all he's giving you. He's not necessarily telling you, anything good, anything bad. It's just neutral information. Okay? Are you? Hopefully, you're understanding the difference here. Okay. All right. So now, what do you think here would be a good example of informative, and what would be a good example of persuasive? Okay, so choose parts of this paragraph. All right, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with this.